All right, everybody, welcome into Concrete Jungle, a New York baseball podcast. Paul Russo here, coming to you guys live from the FingerLakes1.com studios here in Central Falls, New York, third floor of the North Park building. Threw me off the sirens there for a quick minute. Didn't know that we had another. Oh wow, they just got really close. Didn't realize that we had a home run being hit by Anthony Russo again, but here we are. Like I said, Paul Russo, Kyle Evans next to me as always, Nate Sharman behind the scenes producing. Happy Thursday, guys. Made it to the pretty much the end of the week. I know thrilled across multiple fronts here. Kyle, how was you want to? We'll save the bulk of the conversation for here in a minute with that. But how was Game 1 for you there in person?
It was really good. I was just really happy for a win. I didn't want to drive all the way there for a loss, so that was good to see. But yeah, it was my first playoff game, and it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, Nate, happy Thursday to you. I know you said that your golf game yesterday was quote-unquote mid, but a very nice day out on the links for you, I suppose.
Oh, yeah, always a pleasure being out there. Can't complain at all. Some good holes, some bad holes, and some in between, Paul.
Chasing a little white ball around, right?
Chase a little white ball around. Hit it. Go find it and hit it again.
Attaboy. So, obviously, just really recapping one game and looking ahead. So, it's going to be a little bit of a more, I guess, different format overall in the grand scheme of things than what we're used to. Working on some things. We're going to try and figure out, exactly how to kind of give you guys a little bit more stuff going forward here. Obviously, it will be a little bit different on Monday. Obviously, get through a whole weekend's worth of games with the series and who knows what else at that point. But slowly but surely, more information is coming out about, minor league players of the year and stuff like that and the awards for that. So we'll cross those bridges kind of when we get to them. But really today, just recapping Game 1, then looking ahead to the weekend. A lot of different kind of storylines and different stuff to actually kind of discuss. So really looking forward to it. Overall, though, Yankees taking Game 1 Tuesday night, a 4-1 victory over the Cleveland Guardians. Gerrit Cole picks up the win, 1-0 in the postseason, a 1.42 ERA. We'll go more in depth on him here in a few minutes. Cal Quantrill taking the loss, 0-1, a 5.40 ERA rather for him in the postseason. Obviously, we'll save Gerrit Cole and his stuff here for just a couple minutes here down the road. Josh Donaldson went 2 for 2 with a walk. We'll dive more into him. He had a very noticeable base running blunder once again, as we'll go ahead and call it, but we'll discuss that a little bit more in depth as well. But Harrison Bader went 1 for 3, solo shot, and Anthony Rizzo had a 2-run home run as well, kind of powered the Yankee offense there overall. I know Judge 0 for 3 walked, but still in bag. So, the lineup, we had a lot of questions kind of about the roster makeup and stuff like that kind of going forward into the postseason, especially as it got announced Tuesday morning. And we'll really dissect into that more in a couple minutes as well. But, the main glaring one really was the fact that, Marwin Gonzalez was left in the roster. Oswald Peraza was left off. Obviously, Marwin didn't do anything in Tuesday's game, but I thought collectively top to bottom, I know the stats kind of say otherwise, but I thought the offense had a really good game Tuesday night. A lot of quality at bats. I know collectively maybe not a ton to show for it, but there were a lot of quality at bats. I mean, like I said, Judge went 0 for 3, sure, but he walked, had a stolen base, had a lot of impact in that sense as well. There's a lot of other stuff kind of in that neck of the woods as well, outside of just Bader and Rizzo and even Donaldson for that matter.
Yeah, I thought the quality of their bats were pretty good too. Obviously, Judge struck out, like you said, 3 times, but of course every count he had was like 3 and 2, so he just made Cal Quantrill work a little harder. I knew the Yankees would probably finally get to him, but I was just worried that Gerrit Cole is going to have that one bad inning that he kind of always has. Mm-hmm. And he did have a little bit of a rough inning, but this time he was able to escape it, where normally he falls apart. Yeah,
we'll discuss more on Cole here. Like I said, we'll really dive in a couple of minutes here because he really, we kind of questioned a little bit here, over the course of the past month. Sure, he's had really good at-bats and really good stuff, but, really kind of has those moments, like you mentioned, right, where could be leaving stuff up, down, away, and stuff like that. What did you make, because you were there in person, this is where I really kind of want to jump into some of this stuff. I thought it was really cool. Ended up getting, I wouldn't say maybe necessarily leaked, but you kind of had the rumblings of it Monday night and got confirmed Tuesday that CEC would be throwing out the first pitch, which I thought was cool, right? I mean, obviously, Guardian legend, right? To me, Yankee legend. I know that's probably a little bit up for debate to some end for some people, but in my mind, when he goes into the Hall of Fame like he should be, he'll be wearing a Yankee hat. And I know, I forgot who it was. It might have been Heyman, I think, had a big deal about how, Swisher was there, but I thought that was cool, right? What did you make of all, the stuff? Because on TV, I thought it was pretty cool, but obviously in person, everything is much different and usually more impressive in nature.
Yeah, I thought the Yankees did a really good job with the pregame stuff. They even shut the lights off. I never expected that when Swisher came running out from center field. I thought it was cool to just bring back some of the former players and just kind of get the crowd. I mean, the crowd was going to be into it, but really pump them up before first pitch, and it was just an awesome, awesome atmosphere to be there and be a part of it for sure.
Yeah. What was I know we talk a lot. We haven't done necessarily this year too much on at least our podcast in particular, but it's an overall kind of grander one that gets brought up a lot about Yankee Stadium. What was the experience like for you postseason-wise there? Because you are a bit unique in this sense. Not many people can probably say that they went to a regular season game there this year and a postseason game this year.
Yeah, one thing that's way different is every single pitch, everyone's into it.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times, basically we didn't even need seats because you're pretty much standing the entire time, which I didn't have a problem with at all. Everyone's in every pitch. And then with the home runs, it got as loud as I've ever heard it. Just crazy. Just a really good time. If you haven't been to a postseason game, you really got to get to it. I know tickets are, a little expensive, but it's honestly worth the money.
And did you notice a difference, speaking of money and pricing of anything? Because that's something that some people do bring up from time to time at certain spots.
I don't know. I think it was packed. I think people just paid the price, and that was it.
All right, so let's kind of jump in here at this point with some of the more in-depth player discussions here. We'll obviously start in my mind, and Nate, appreciate you. That's a pretty cool picture. Like I mentioned, part of the pregame stuff that the Yankees had going on there as well. We'll jump into the player stuff here that I really want to get into. So we'll start obviously with Gerrit Cole going 6 1/3 innings. I think I want to start here. Obviously, he ended the regular season. Collectively, it was a high note. I don't want to make it sound like it was just a bad thing for him. But at the end of the day, right, kind of leaving some stuff up in the zone every now and then, and certainly found himself in putting the team in situations that probably didn't deserve to necessarily be in. That being said, he's a pitcher who, I think I got the stat wrong. I thought it was 5-0 in the last 5 ALDS starts for him. I think it's 4-1. But he is a guy who clearly in these moments steps up and beyond big ways. And look, he's the reason. There's a reason why we paid him like he is to be the ace, and he certainly, at least in Game 1, showed up and did that.
Yeah, and I think one of the biggest things was, the Guardians really made him work. I think he threw 25 pitches in the first inning. The young lineup actually really did make him work a lot. But the difference in this game was every single time he seemed like he was in a jam, he got out of it. The Guardians were 0 for 8 with runners in scoring position, and most of that traffic was in, when he was on the mound. But yeah, he settled in. I think he went to his off-speed pitches a lot more.
Yeah.
I think the Guardians were hunting the fastball, and that's why Kwan took him deep. But I think they had a game plan going into the game more off-speed. Matt Blake obviously always does a good job at talking over with the pitchers for the game.
Talk about a guy, by the way, in Stephen Kwan, who probably is not getting a lot of respect he still probably deserves overall in the grand scheme of things. Kwan was the only guy who kind of did anything, I'd say, super consistent against the Yankees in Game 1, right? I mean, with 2 for 4, obviously the home run proved to be the only source of at least run support. But Cole, he goes 6 in the third. We'll begin at this point. I thought he probably didn't deserve to be outright pulled when he did. I thought he at least deserved maybe at least one more shot going another batter, but
Guess they didn't want him facing Quan for the third.
yeah, I think I that's what I know Casas and Ron Darling brought up. But to me personally, the way I approach things is I thought he earned enough of a spot to go ahead and try and get that next guy out.
And there's nobody on base, so at minimum it's another solo shot.
Right. So I don't know. I don't know what your thoughts exactly are. I know me and you kind of have a similar thought line, but different on some stuff like that. But to me, I thought he definitely earned at least that next batter in line, even though it was Quan.
Yeah, I agree. He definitely should have gotten the other batter, but of course, analytics are telling them pull him. So I kind of knew it was coming to when the inning started. But yeah, if I'm managing, I send him back out there, or keep him out there, I should say. And if he gives up a home run, at least it's just a solo shot again.
Yeah,
those don't really hurt much.
And the other thing you mentioned too, Ryan, that's a key thing was his pitch count technically high? Yeah, I guess.
think he was at 101.
But really the only inning that was, I guess, an albatross in nature to that was the first inning, with it going into the 25 range. Yeah, but 101 in the seventh at that point, I think I would have let him go. I mean,
yeah, at worst he'd probably throw another 5 to 7 pitches.
Right. And like I said, outside of Quan, really, the top of that lineup didn't do overall a ton of damage. Rosario was 0 for 3 with a hit by pitch. Ramirez, he went 2 for 3, but it was a lot of it came in the first inning. The main source of Ramirez's offense was in the first inning. He had a double off him, so.
Yeah, only 2 extra base hits.
Right, and then in the worst case scenarios, right, Naylor was 0 for 4 in the game, and Oscar Gonzalez was 0 for 4 in the game. So clearly they just didn't do anything. I mean, it's, again, I understand it, I guess, in the grand scheme of things, but I think he earned at least staying out there.
Yeah, see, I was worried about Josh Naylor. I thought he had a good matchup in this game, left side of the plate. But Cole did a good job against him. So.
Yeah, so the final line for Cole, 6 and a third innings, 4 hits, an earned run, a walk, a hit by pitch, and 8 Ks. It was a, to put it bluntly, an ace start and an ace pitcher doing his thing in the postseason.
Yeah, much better than that outing in Boston last October.
Yeah, for sure. All right, let's transition over to Josh Donaldson. Obviously, a lot of questions regarding the roster maneuvers and moves Tuesday morning. Not surprised to see Donaldson obviously make the roster. His final couple of weeks was really kind of being a decent anchor in that Yankee lineup. Certainly days were better than other days for him, but for what he was this year, he definitely was on a hot streak to end the regular season. 2 for 2 with a walk on Tuesday night, but most notably, another really good day at the dish for him is going to be overshadowed by the base running blunder that he had early on in the game of the third. Was that the third inning? Yeah. When he hit a ball, went off the top of the fence in right field. He thought it was clearly a home run, and I do want to circle back to that in just a hot minute. When he more or less marooned out in the middle of the base path between first and second, really heads-up play, I guess. Credit to Oscar Gonzalez, right fielder for Cleveland, to be realizing that Donaldson's is kind of out there, and gets thrown out, retreating back to first base. It kind of highlights a broader issue for the Yankees, again, that we've brought up a couple of times this year with the base running. And what should have been a really good thing for Donaldson, a really good night, is going to get overshadowed by this blunder.
Yeah, and imagine if they lost this game 2-1.
Right. I mean, at the time, this was, like you said, it was a close game.
Yeah, it was a 1-1 game. So it was a big spot in the game, and I don't get it. Like, it seemed like he just completely took his eye off the ball. Like, yep, it was like a no-doubter, apparently, he thought. And he just took his eye off it. If you watch the replay, he gives the first base coach a high five. Then he looks up, and he's like, oh, like, what are we doing? Because they're, like, throwing it back in. And it's like, dude, why are you being so selfish? Pay attention to the ball and, like, understand the game. Like, you don't just put your head down.
Yeah, I mean, so Travis Chapman's the Yankees' first base coach, and he did give him a high five as he rounded first base. It was interesting that was the case, especially when it was, I wouldn't say necessarily clearly not a home run, but you know,
If it's close,
it was
you run hard.
close. Yeah, I mean,
It wasn't like Yordan Alvarez's walk-off, you know what I
Right,
mean? Like
right.
a moonshot.
so, and it results obviously in that out, and it's a tough spot. It's tough because, you know, where I stand right now in my own personal, we'll call it coaching journey, is I work primarily with pretty much guys our age up here on with us, between me, you, Kyle, Nate, and even it translates over at least to the age portion of this to the big leaguers, where you're kind of not exactly coaching per se as it is you're kind of doing the tactician stuff in nature. It's hard to outright teach, especially a guy like Donaldson who, look, backside of his career, right, still a good enough performing athlete to be out there, but he's going to be pretty much stuck in his ways technically when you look at it. I think the only solace is maybe the other people around him and even himself within moments like that, probably being a bit more cognizant. But to me, there's not much you can really do at this point, especially if you want to look at it at the micro level in the season to make adjustments to this. Because, like I said, this is now at least the fifth time we've discussed it on the podcast of the Yankees having some sort of base running blunder that's just continued on through really the course of Boone's tenure as manager.
And a few of them have been with Josh Donaldson. That's the thing. That's why it's like more frustrating,
Right.
because the guy just continues to do it and he doesn't learn from it. And like that is a selfish mistake. You're supposed to be a team player. Don't just put your head down and give up on a ball in a big game. Like if you look right there, he's slapping the first base coach. He's not even looking at the field.
Right.
He's looking down.
Right.
Like it was a no-doubter.
No.
Like I don't get it.
And it, like, the thing is too, right? I mean, you have the fans who are. If there was ever a time for a fan that you wanted some sort of maybe interference ever hit off the top of the fence, where it's kind of at that point enters that gray area of, right, is it fan interference? Is it not?
Yeah, Michael Kay was saying since Gonzalez wasn't going to be underneath it
Right.
to catch it, if the fan just caught it, that's a double.
Right.
Which he's right.
Yeah.
And then he also said, I didn't know this was a rule, that if the ball wasn't over the wall yet and he touched the first base coach, that's not allowed.
Right, it's an out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
they could have done that too.
Yeah, as a coach, I mean, it hasn't been. I haven't seen it be called since about I want to say it was 2013 with the Cardinals, oddly enough, where their third base coach of that, I think it might have been Okino, who touched, I don't know, I can't remember who the runner was, but it was kind of like one of those inadvertent touches where actually the runner was coming around third base, went too wide, and kind of clipped Okino, and that is an out. You can, if you're a base runner, you cannot touch your coach, no matter whether it's fair territory, foul territory, it doesn't matter. It's one of the things I think this goes back to maybe it's more on the coaching staff as opposed to the players, just kind of being cognizant of that stuff where it's, being observant of that. Because, like, I know for me personally, I make sure I'm well held away to make sure I don't get hit by anybody if they're coming around the bag, or I'm not reaching out to high five where it's a point where it's not, whatever.
Yeah. This would be a way bigger topic, like I said, if they lost.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a good thing they won.
Right.
Because, this would be all over the New York sports radio.
Exactly. But to me, it's worth mentioning because, again, I mean, this is now like the fifth or sixth time we've brought up a base running issue. Donaldson at least the second.
Yeah, imagine Game 7 of the World Series and he does this and they
I mean,
go on
yeah.
to lose.
I mean, yeah. I mean, the last time we brought this up was another key. It might have been a key moment potentially in the game against the Blue Jays, where just he was caught out and whatever else. Look at that. That was a fantastic picture you got right there, Kyle.
Yeah, 200 level. I thought they were perfect seats. Saw the Rizzo home run right below me. It was perfect.
Nice. So actually, you probably had a nice little bird's eye view for what at least the play itself down in right field. Then
Yeah, perfect.
So yeah, it's a tough spot. Obviously, this portion of it won't be a positive note either. But after obviously we recorded Monday's podcast and we live at Monday's podcast, still kind of wondering, who was going to be where in the roster. We thought the bullpen was set, but it wasn't. Scott Efros was notably left off the roster initially. We kind of news broke effectively simultaneously, but I think it allowed everybody for about a minute to have a moment of why isn't Scott Efros on the roster. As it turns out, he will be needing Tommy John surgery. It's not fully known when exactly this injury with his UCL occurred and his elbow. His last appearance was the second to last game of the season in Texas through a shutout inning of work, 1, 2, 3 in order. So maybe not necessarily the case, but it's kind of safe to rule out something happening in that outing. Where you can probably make a safe bet is it happened at some point within one of the workouts in between the Texas series and Tuesday at 10 a.m. And this is a tough spot. This is where, I didn't want to necessarily outright talk about it, but it kind of gets brought in again where this is a spot where Aroldis Chapman might have found a spot in this roster for the postseason. Efros was kind of lined up to more than likely kind of be in that closer role. Clearly, the way it seems, the Yankees will probably go be using Clay Holmes in the quote-unquote high leverage situations and kind of potentially saving Efros for the ninth inning.
Yeah, the bullpen situation is very, very interesting. I mean, they're really thin. I mean, take away Chad Green out of that bullpen and all, like Michael Cain and Zach Britt and all of the guys, the veteran guys, it would just be so nice to have them right now, but obviously injuries you can't really. There's nothing you can do about it.
Right.
So hopefully, Miguel Castro, Jonathan Loaiza, just guys like that can step up because they're really going to need it. And hopefully Clay Holmes is the same pitcher he was in the first half.
Right, and obviously, Johnny Lasagna showed up in a big way, got a hold.
Yep.
Tuesday night.
Wandy Peralta.
Yeah, Wandy.
Pretty good.
Yeah, and that's a guy that, is going to need to be big because it's only him and Lucas Ledke as left-handers out in the bullpen, and, neither one of them throw particularly hard. Obviously, they're more crafty in nature and stuff like that. So obviously, short term, right, I think this kind of poses maybe not as much a difficult task because more than likely, at least to me anyway, what you see on the pitching side of the roster will probably be the same should the Yankees advance to the ALCS. Stan maybe swapping out one guy for another guy rest situation-wise, but I don't think in the immediate effect it probably changes anything in that regard.
And how about Jamison Tyone in the bullpen? I thought that was interesting. I saw him warming up in the ninth inning the other night. But I do like that, having Herman and Tyone in the pen as well as Schmidt.
Yeah.
I mean, guys that can go multiple innings. I think that's big.
Yeah. So let's take a quick dive into that long term now with Efros. The Yankees in that trade gave up one of their top 30 guys in Hayden Wesniewski to go to the Chicago Cubs. Hayden was doing really well at Scranton Wilkes-Barre. Was a guy that maybe if the second half of the year kind of plays out in certain ways, probably would have gotten a spot start here or there for the Yankees, in all honesty. But obviously trade away, and really he looked really good for the Cubs, especially that final month for them. Efros will be down this is a year to 18-month deal. He'll be out for sure all of next year. And depending upon what happens, it could leak into 2024, kind of depending upon how the elbow heals. So, this was a guy that the Yankees kind of leaned on, we're potentially leaning on moving forward. So I think the question becomes now for them, who do you find to replace Scott Efros?
Yeah, that's the thing. Aaron Boone and obviously the coaching staff have a lot of just stuff to deal with, especially with the bullpen. I don't know. I just think it's going to be a lot of mixing and matching. He's going to have to use guys, back-to-back days. Like this weekend, if they do end up playing 3 days in a row, if Loaiza needs to play 3 days in a row, you got to do it. I mean, they're short, and it's big. They're big games.
And if there's any consolation, obviously you mentioned having Herman, Tyone out there, Schmidt who can go long innings. Loaiza was a starter coming through the minors most of his minor league career. I mean, this is a guy who definitely does have at least some form of stamina in there. Obviously, I don't think he can go out and throw 5 innings anymore, but I think he can handle going back to back to back, or even a worst case spot going 3 innings. I mean, he went 3 a couple different times this year anyway, so certainly can be a pivotal spot if needed. So you mentioned an interesting point here, Kyle, and this is how we'll kind of wrap up the broader discussion, at least today on the podcast. When will we officially know about today? So the weather in New York is pretty questionable at the moment. It's kind of been brought up, through the course of the past couple of days because of the way that they're doing the series this year. How will we look at this moving forward? Do we postpone today? Do we move outright to Friday, tomorrow, and then
Yeah, they're saying if it
play
is tomorrow,
more or less play 4 in a row potentially?
afternoon game tomorrow, they're
yeah.
saying if they did do that, like I don't know about that, but
Yeah,
whatever.
but good news is, at least out of New York, is apparently the weather is looking slightly better. I know at least up here in the central New York area, it's been raining pretty hard off and on all day so far today. But the only negative with the slight improvement is that we are quite literally looking at a game time decision type stuff. Never ideal. Obviously, you look at the pitching matchup tonight, it's a big one, Bieber versus Cortez, and it doesn't matter who you are as a starter, right? Bieber, Cortez, right? Gerrit Cole to, I don't even know, a guy like J.P. Sears, I guess. You prefer to know when you're kind of getting warmed up a little bit. So I'm imagining at least today, at least at this point, you're kind of going about business as usual, but this is certainly a tough spot just the way that the playoffs are structured this year.
Yeah, and this is not like the regular season where they're okay to start a game and play, 5-6 innings, and then, all right, like if we have a long rain delay, that's fine. Like, no, they don't want these teams to lose their starting pitchers if the delay is too long. So they actually want a clean window where they can 100% get 9 innings in without delays. And I mean, looking here, 7 o'clock, thunderstorm, 75% chance of rain. That weather report was better, but I mean, right here, if you look at the hourly stuff, I don't see how they're going to have a window to play.
Yeah, and I mean, I can't imagine that they'll want to wait too long to make a decision tonight should it get to that point. I'll take a phrase out of the racing bag that we use is, as long as there's lights, there's a chance. But that being said, you are going up against, to a degree, the other ALDS series in Houston and the Mariners potentially, even though I think they're like a 4:30 start.
Yeah, it's an early start today. So if they don't play, there's no game.
I mean, the only competition at that point you're dealing with is the god awful Commanders Bears game tonight. So.
And Buffalo Sabres hockey, Paul.
Well, yeah, but okay, fair enough. I'll allow it. But like I said, I think in the grand scheme of things, right, I think they do have a bit of leeway here. This is where we can really, I guess, jump in now and look at what's ahead here for the Yankees, right? So tomorrow would be at the moment, still an off day, right? Still an off day. But the next game slated and officially scheduled is Saturday, and it is a night game again, 7:37 first pitch. So to me, I know that they probably want an answer sooner than later, right? But I think they'll wait out a little bit. You saw what the Braves did, the Phillies and Braves. They did wait roughly about 3 hours to have the first pitch. Again, a little bit different. Their first pitch was slated to be 4:30 or 4:37. My bad. Ended up being 7:37 by the time the game got going there last night. But to me anyway, I think they will wait. I don't know about tonight waiting 3 hours because that puts you at 10:37 on the East Coast.
Which I'd love it, but people got work.
Right, but on the East Coast it is a bit rough. So, I would guess that they'd probably, if they think they can get the first pitch hypothetically in somewhere in between the 9 to 9:30 range as a late window, I think they'd do it. But I can't imagine if it's later than that we'd see baseball tonight in the Bronx.
Yeah, hopefully they just give good updates. I thought the Braves did really well with just letting their fans know.
And by the way, credit to them. I think it goes beyond saying what they did. You rarely see it, right? They allowed, if you were there, they were going to allow you into the stadium. They were going to do they did half off all food and non-alcoholic beverages during that as well. Big kudos to the Braves. I know that's a tough decision. Trust me, they didn't have to eat too much of the profit for that. So, but credit to the Braves. That was a class act thing to do. So tonight, theoretically tonight, 7:37 first pitch on TBS. It's Shane Bieber. Regular season for him was 13-8, a 2.88 ERA. He's 1-0 in the postseason, or actually rather, he is no decision. He's 0-0 in the postseason. forgot about how crazy that game was last Friday with the Braves or with the Rays for them against Nestor Cortez. His first start of the postseason, 12-4 on the regular season, a 2.44 ERA there. So we'll start with that game tonight with our prediction wise. As much as I'd like to say, yeah, Yankees definitely moved to 2-0. This, again, Cleveland frightens me. If that pitching's on, man, they are just a tough out. I think this is probably one of the games where I would imagine Cleveland gets it and they even up the series tonight.
Yeah, I mean, it's Nestor Cortez's first career postseason start, like as good as he's been in the regular season. I mean, stuff's different. If you look at Luis Severino in the postseason, his numbers aren't as great. So you just never know what you're going to get from a guy that's never been in a huge game like that.
Right.
And like you said, Shane Bieber was throwing the ball really well. I really don't know what to expect. I think the Yankees pull it out late and win.
Yeah. Then obviously we will look ahead to Saturday here because we won't be around for you the rest of the week. 7:37 first pitch on Saturday. Also on TBS will be Luis Severino getting the nod at 7-3 in the regular season, a 3.18 ERA against Tristan McKenzie. Tristan is 0-0 with a 0 ERA in the postseason. Really good outing for him against the Rays. I do think the Yankees get the win on Saturday, move it 2-1 rather in the series. But look, I think it's pretty fluid, especially the Saturday situation, depending upon what happens tonight. So who knows there. Preface it before turning over to you on Sunday, a 7:07 first pitch on TBS. Obviously, if necessary, TBA versus TBA. I would expect that game to be Gerrit Cole again for the Yankees. This would be a 5-day rest spot. And then for the Guardians, I think it's a little bit of a toss-up. I think they might go Control again, but they have their pick of either him, Aaron Savali, or Zach Plesac for that game. So I think it could go anywhere.
Yeah, I do agree with you. I think Savali could be the guy, but I could see Quantrill too. I mean, he had a couple rough innings, but for the most part, he threw the ball pretty well. I mean, he's not the best pitcher on that team, but I think he did enough to kind of keep him in the game for sure.
Yeah.
And if the Guardians just hit with runners in scoring position, this game would have been closer.
Yeah. I mean, it definitely – the Yankees kept him at arm's distance, and that's the big thing with especially postseason, right? I mean, I think you look at if anybody was watching the game last night between the Padres and Dodgers, I mean, definitely made it look like the Dodgers were probably playing better ball, especially the late innings, than the Padres in certain spots. But the Padres were just able to keep them at arm's length the whole time, and that was the determining factor in that game last night. That's all you need in the postseason.
Yeah.
All right, so that will take care of Concrete Jungle for today. Appreciate everybody for tuning in. I know, Kyle, you're pretty thrilled. Have one more sport for you to watch. Buffalo Sabres hockey back for you.
Yeah. Yankees game needs to get rained out.
I'll give you the floor for a few seconds here. Hot predictions for the season for your Sabres.
The Sabres don't make the playoffs.
Oh.
But they're fighting for a playoff spot very late into the year.
All right. Nate, you're a Sabres fan as well. What are your predictions for the year? Any high hopes?
I like that prediction too, Kyle. That's probably about right. But I did like your other prediction better, that it referred to Paul's Lightning.
Yeah, did I say
that one?
Did I say this year, though, or did I say next year? I don't remember.
You said this year.
Oh.
Well, what was said?
Okay, well, I'll stick with it then.
What was said?
The Sabres will make the playoffs.
Okay.
And didn't I say they would beat the Lightning?
In the first round, yep.
In the first round. Okay.
Anything's possible in the postseason, folks. It don't matter where.
Just got to get to the dance, then anything can happen.
Exactly. Nate, appreciate you as always behind the scenes producing. If you can't watch us live here on YouTube, catch up anytime there. Anchor, Spotify, other major podcasting platforms. We'll be back Monday recapping the weekend for Kyle Evans and Paul Russo. Appreciate everybody for tuning in. We'll talk on Monday.